everybody, how's it going? I'm Chase Jarvis. I did a blog post a few years ago. One of the most popular requests that I get from you folks out there in the internet world is to share with you our workflow, how we get our data moving around in our system. I wanted to make a video, which is what we're doing right now, that shows you everything from our capture all the way through the workflow to our archive. Hope it helps. Check it out. Looks great. Ow. Alright, so we just finished up shooting for the day, and I've got the last 32 gigs out of the D3S. We're going to run this card through the ingestion process here.
So I grabbed this little card here from Scott and dropped it into my FireWire 800 reader. These things are all daisy chained together so it gets into the computer eventually. Pops up this little import window up here in just 1 second. And the sweet part about Aperture 3 is that whether it's still or video or whatever it is, it all comes through this little dialog box right here where I'm just going to go ahead and fill in today's reverse date. So we're going to run this through. It's not only copying to the primary drive here, but it's also copying to the secondary drive at the same time. These are the G-Tech 256 SSDs, bomb-proof, fast. We take them everywhere. All I got to do is come over here to import check, and I'm golden.
So you might think that D'Artagnan does nothing sitting around when we're working hard all day, but that's not true. As a digital asset manager, he's been working really hard all day, downloading cards, but he's also doing something else that's going to save us a bunch of time and energy later. Tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm taking all the video files that we create from all the different cameras and everything. I'm running it in through Apple's compressor and outputting ProRes 422 files so that when we get back to the studio, we've got a nice even place to start from.
Yep.
Yep.
See, it's not slacking. He's working hard.
Working hard. The one difference in the workflow we talked about earlier is the red camera footage. This stuff is captured in a RAW format and requires an unwieldy software. So all we do out here in the field is download it to our 2 backup drives, and then once we get back to a beefier computer, we'll run it through the Cine software and do the conversion to ProRes there.
Welcome to the base camp. 2 things happen every day after we're done shooting back here in this room. 1, we copy data. 2, we do some editing. First, the data copy. We take this, you'll recognize this is our field drive. We plug this thing in to our hardware here, which is a G-Safe. Each one of these drives is a 2 terabyte drive, and they're RAID 1, which means they're exact copies of another. At the end of the day, we take one of these things out after we've copied the data, and it lives in Scott's room. We take another one out, and it lives in D'Artagnan's room. We separate the drives in case one of the rooms is firebombed, and then we've still got safe data in the other guy's room. Thing 2 is editing. We review the pictures. They're fresh in our mind. We look at all the photos, and we script all the videos, and make little check boxes by the ones we like, so we can do more work on when we get back to the mothership in Seattle.
Your reflection is in my glass. It's like a mirror. It's like a mirror.
We've now come back here to the studio to do 2 very important things. Important thing number 1 is to put this data on our server. So let me take a second and introduce our server. This is the Apple Xserve, and they are driving these 2 guys here, which are the G-Speed FC XL. The FC stands for fiber channel, and the XL stands for extra large. So what is this? This is a giant hard drive, except that it's made up of a bunch of different hard drives, in this case 16. The benefit is if one of these drives fails, you can pull it out, and the other drives have enough information to basically recreate the data on a new drive that you would insert in there, and nothing is lost. Each one of those is 32 terabytes, so we've got 64 terabytes of love. Important thing number 2 is that with this data, we also have to get a copy off of our server onto an external drive that's held at offsite.
One of the things Chase didn't mention is how we store data on the server. We keep everything organized by year, project, day, camera, and then the shot. We put all that information right into the file name, and that way if we ever need to go back and find anything, we know exactly where to look. So the shoot just got finished copying to our server and to our backup drive. We use one of these G-Speed ES 8 terabytes just in case anything really bad happens to the server, a fire or a flood. We have the whole shoot, all the shoots, safe and secure at our top secret location.
You can hit me
So we've just put all the data onto the server, and now we're over here at Scott's desk. This is Scott, this is his desk, and we're going to get freak nasty on some pictures. What that means is we have to copy the aperture library that we made out in the field from our server onto Scott's desktop so we can work locally. Now we're working with referenced files, not managed files, and we're going to do some editing and we're going to do some basic retouching before we move on to the next steps.
The next step, once we have a picture worked up through its whole raw process here in Aperture, is I'll just export a PSD into a different part of our server, which is what we refer to as the live work, and that's any pictures or clips or anything that has been worked on. It is no longer just raw data. Open that up in Photoshop, finish up any final retouching we have to do, and then from there it's out the door however the client wants it. Generally it's just an export of a high-res TIFF out of Photoshop.
Remember, data, sacred, holy, not to be touched, raw. Live work, everything else. If you start moving pixels, it goes in live work, whether it's photo or video. Don't screw that one up. Okay, now let's talk video workflow for a second. I'm sitting here with my good friend Eric. He's our video guru, and we were both sitting in front of Apple Final Cut Pro, which is our editing platform of choice. Final Cut Pro is a non-destructive, non-linear editing platform, and what that means is that you can access any clip you want just by simply clicking on it. You don't have to wait for it to play forward till you get to the part you like. And the non-destructive part means that we're working with referenced files, and that it doesn't affect any of the raw clips we've got sitting on our server. So that's really helpful.
Yep, so once we have the edit right where we want it and it's all fine and good, we send it back to compressor. We convert it to any sort of variety of formats, whether it's a 720p H.264 video to upload to YouTube, or maybe something that's a DVC Pro to broadcast, or even a little 320 by 240 QuickTime file to email to a client or put on an iPhone. We can do all of that in compressor with very few steps. So we start in compressor converting the footage, and we end in compressor converting the footage for the final output.
It's a compressor sandwich.
Got it. You got it at your fingertips.
In the same way that we back up our raw data offsite, we also back up our live data offsite. This is a tricky part, so see if you can stay with me. There's a portion of the server here that is just dedicated to live work, but we also want to take that offsite, and the way we do that is we use Time Machine, that program that's built into the Apple operating system, and we have it back up our live work folders onto this here drive. This is a 2 terabyte G drive. Every 7 days we take this drive offsite and replace it with live work 2. So that comes in here, we plug that in, and it gets all the live work written to it as well. If the studio is hit by a meteor, if it's buried in quicksand, if the studio's crushed by the Cloverfield monster, Sasquatch, global warming, Nessie, we still got all the data offsite. All of our raw data is offsite, and now all of our live data is offsite too. And in the worst case scenario, all we're at is like 7 days worth of pixel pushing. Now, this isn't just for your photos and your video. Don't forget to back up your production documents, your business documents, your music, even all your websites and stuff like that. That can be in this live work too. Okay, so the last thing we haven't talked about is what happens at each individual workstation. Basically, every computer in our studio has its own external drive, and using Apple's Time Machine software, we write a backup to that drive every hour. It's backing up your user preferences, your email, and anything that's going on your local hard drive. That'll keep you backed up in case your hard drive fails, or if you happen to delete a file, you might be able to go back and grab that file in one of the archives of Time Machine. Alright everybody, let's take a second to wrap this thing up. I want to leave you with 2 big picture, really important concepts. Concept number 1 is you've got to make sure you have multiple copies of your data. Always, always, always. That's the most important thing in this whole video. 2 is if you're a professional, you need to keep an extra copy of that data off-site. Your pictures are just too valuable for you and your clients. Don't want to mess around with that. I also want you to remember that everything I've said here is scalable, and you need to design your backup solution for your needs. Not somebody else's, but for yours. And I probably forgot some stuff. I probably went too fast over some things. If that's the case, be sure to check out chasejarvis.com/blog. There'll be a bunch more information there. And don't forget to read the comments of those posts, because there's always good stuff in there too. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I hope everything I've said here helps you keep your data safe.